This week on the Adobe Video CHiNWAG, we share what we know about the proxy workflow. Feel the sensation of ingest automation, customize your proxy size, to cut the bloat while working remote. Join the live stream with John Barrie and Paul Murphy this Wednesday at 7 p.m. Melbourne time.
Hello, welcome to episode 8. Is it 8? I think it's 8. Season 2 of the Adobe Video CHiNWAG. Joining me, as per usual this season, is my great friend Paul Murphy. How are you?
Hello, I'm good. I always get caught up in L's opening credits there. I'm sorry, I mention it every time, but I see different layers every time I see it. I'm always very impressed.
I really like working with it, actually. It's a good little promo. Very easy to use. Very easy to use. So this week we're talking about proxies. So we're going to have a bit of a CHiNWAG around the idea of proxies, around the different use cases, the different workflows and things like that. So if you're on the live stream, be sure to share some of your own experiences, which might be covering ourselves. But if we're not, then we will certainly cover it if you bring it up. And if you've got any questions, by all means, throw them into the comments as well. We'd love to hear from you while we do this thing live. And if any of you are watching this in a replay format, please hit us up in the comments with any questions you've got. It might have something to do with the episode itself, or it might be a completely different topic, and we'll use that and we'll start to work with you through the comment section and maybe even come up with our own spin-off topic around the comments you leave behind. So, I have my bevy in hand. Do you have your bevy
this week,
in hand?
I have my sponsored bevy in hand.
Oh, right. Wow, you picked up a half-decent sponsor right there, didn't you? Well,
yeah.
As far as,
actually,
I guess, they're not
this
poor.
This is this morning's coffee. I didn't finish it.
Oh. You didn't bring in a proxy
the kind of
for
caliber people we are. Yeah, that's right.
Oh.
This is my proxy coffee.
Oh, man. Wow. We didn't even rehearse that. That's all legitimately happening right now.
I take it
for the first time. So, cool. We've got a few people that are sitting online here. We've got our Undead Will Destroy All. No, we didn't do any pre-banter this time. We're always experimenting. We're always trying things out. I kind of like that we talk a bit of crap on the front end, but yeah, we sort of just went straight into it, didn't we?
Yeah.
Would you like us to crap
will
on?
Destroy All. How are you doing today? Maybe we should do the pre-banter with you.
Yeah, man.
What's going on with you?
So one of the problems with this is the lag.
Oh, okay. So he won't hear that until we've moved on to the next topic.
I know.
Like proxies.
Like proxies. All right. Well, let's just get stuck into the concept of proxies. So way back when I started doing video stuff, proxies was kind of the only way you could really work because machines were not yet powerful enough to do full res video.
Are we still in the 90s here?
Yeah.
With what you're talking about?
Yeah, this is still the 90s, yeah. And that was like standard definition. It wasn't even high definition yet. Pretty sad when you think about it. But at the same time, pretty amazing how quick things have changed. But then again, we're back in proxy land. Like, what?
Yeah, isn't that interesting? But, I think the way I think of it is that so I feel like when I started editing, rendering was like the number one thing that you would do to speed up playback, and you sort of got used to it. But rendering can actually be quite an inefficient way to do things, especially if you're just rendering something because of its format. If you're rendering something because it has a bunch of effects on it, sure, great. But rendering something just because it's 4K and you're trying to cut something in HD, That's not a great solution, and that's where like proxies, I think, fill that gap well.
Yeah, I agree. Well, I guess with things like now there's 8K cameras out there
Yes.
that are shooting.
Yeah, 4K was a terrible example because everybody's like 4K. Pff, my computer can
4K,
do that.
yeah, my computer can do 4K. What are you talking about?
What about 16K?
Oh, far out. There was actually a hard limit put on the Premiere Pro to not go higher than 16K res as a native res that it would try to play back.
Yeah.
I don't know what's going to happen next with that. I'd still say 16K is probably not going to be normal for at least 6 months.
I feel like we're for at least 6 months. I feel like we're hitting a ceiling, right? At some point, there's just going to be a tripod on the moon, and you just shoot the Earth, and then you just crop in on the parts of the Earth that your film is in. That's basically it.
Well, I guess with that kind of resolution, and it'd be on your phone too.
Yeah, it'd be on your phone.
You'd be able to like zoom in and see the space station and like the people in the window waving. And
who says we don't do pre-show banter?
Well, this is show banter, in-show banter.
Show banter, right? Okay.
Yeah. All right, cool. Well, maybe let's go take a look at our list.
Yes.
Good to know you're very good, by the way. Mr. Undead will destroy all. So where's our little list here that we're going to go through? I keep looking in the wrong spot. I'm pretty sure I'm looking in the wrong spot. Maybe
Yeah.
not.
I feel as though the place to start with proxies always, and I accept that there are probably people who have used proxies before, people who are curious about using proxies, but I feel like the first thing you've got to know is just how to use them on the timeline. Like that's the first sort of trick.
It helps.
It
quite
helps
a lot. Where are we? This is killing me. Oh, there it is. I'm such a drongo. And I'm still looking in the wrong direction, if I am honest.
Yeah, we're all just seeing the back of your head at the moment.
Yeah. You're looking at the back of my head. Oh, because I'm turned so much. But I'm looking like off screen, aren't I? I'm not looking into the center. Like if I was looking that way, I should set up all these crazy monitors the other way. I've got another one over there, but I think that's worse.
Right.
Is that worse? I think it's worse. Anyway. Are we still on? Whose shot are we on? I can't even think anymore. Right. Let's go from the two up into the user interface. All right.
Yes.
Bop. I'm pretty sure we're looking at the right screen now. Bop. I have to keep fiddling around with my little monitoring things. So, we're going to just do some very basic looking user interface related stuff where we'll step in and out of things. The concept here is more about that scalability of like taking the idea where you see it in a simple format, you understand the basics, and then be able to sort of build on top of that and go, oh, well, I'm just doing a rinse and repeat of the same steps and the same understanding, the underpinnings of understanding where proxies are coming into play with the way that you're working. So I'm using some footage here that I shot in Barrie. It's my own footage.
How old?
That's a good question.
Old enough that you could travel to Barrie.
How old was I, or how old is the footage?
Well, I didn't want to know one, but now I want to know both.
I don't remember, and I'll take a guess. 5 years ago? 5 years?
Okay.
3 years ago. 3
Yeah.
years ago. 3 years ago?
Mm-hmm.
Which would have made me around
12.
that age. Yes,
Right.
12. If I shave my beard, I get asked for ID, and I'm well over twice the legal drinking age. How do you feel about that? It kind of bothers me. See, now we're having a CHiNWAG. We're just talking crap.
Now we're having a CHiNWAG.
So
all
how
I
do
know
you
is
feel
I
about that?
accidentally shaved my beard too much last week, and everybody said, nice haircut. Which you yourself did do as well. You complimented me on my haircut. And I hadn't had a haircut. I just shaved too much of my beard by mistake.
Oh my God, I did too. I honestly thought that like the sides were trimmed down and you actually had a top of the head haircut.
It must be a
And it was only
scalable thing where if I
man,
shorten this looks better.
you only trimmed your beard.
Yeah. So here at CHiNWAG, what we do is we get onto the topic and then we do the pre-show banter.
Maybe we should do all the pre-show banter in the pre-show.
Yeah, yeah.
All right, back to the screen.
Quite unique in that sense.
Yeah. All right, I'm going to change my user interface because,
Yep.
I want
I'm
to.
liking the AFL Mogets though. They look good.
Oh, yeah. I worked with AFL a little while back and showed them some of their potential, and they went, "Yes, we love that potential. Give me more of that potential." So I still have it in my still have it sitting there. Okay, cool. Right, back to our little list. Where's our little list?
Yeah.
So creating proxies. Okay, right now I don't have any proxies being used at all. How do I know this? There's a couple different ways of how you would know whether or not your proxies are turned on. So, Paul, what's one of the ways that we can tell whether a proxy's been switched on or not, or even if it's got one? Oh.
Okay. Well, the one that I use the most is the button. And the button isn't there by default, but I can see that you've added the button.
Oh.
And I usually put it on the other side of the window.
Well, it's interchangeable, isn't it? You can move it around.
Of course.
So it's the button.
A lot of people probably don't know about the button.
That's true. Or that there are other buttons at all. So the default buttons that you get, you can throw them all away. Here's a little side step here, but you can just go into show transport controls and just ditch them all. So if you really don't use them, turn them off, reclaim some of that space, some of that user interface or real estate, especially on a laptop. Yeah, big time. Yeah, so you can go show transport controls, turn them on. Now, there's the plus, the button editor. So if I click on that bad boy, there's a bunch of things in here that we could use. Instead of using keyboard shortcuts, which some will, some won't be assigned, I'm going to just hover over the top and you get this little pop-up window. That one is the toggle proxies. And if you look at just after the name, in brackets, it's got Shift plus P. That's because
That's your shortcut, right?
Yes. That's right. It does not come with one. You have to assign it yourself. Now, I'm going to...
shortcut, though.
Well, thank you. P for proxies makes sense to me. Shift, I think, is a super power button.
Yeah, so proxies. I thought it meant Shift Paul, but... yeah, okay. Shift proxies make sense as well.
I'm going to allow the reclaim. It is super power Paul.
Right.
Right, now to move any of these around, you have to be in this state of having the button editor open, right? And I can move it now to the very end, which is where Paul says he usually puts his.
That's the spot.
I find, for me, and this is just me talking, right? Usually I'm working in the timeline around here. And if I do want to use a button that I might be buttoning on and off, because sometimes just using the keyboard, I can't be bothered. I want the least distance, right? And so, that's where I put it. Now, if I grab it and I put it back into this pool of icons, notice it's now gone away. It's not there. And then I just grab it and put it back in. Okay, cool. So we've established where it is, how to get access to it, and then turning it on. So I'm going to use my keyboard shortcut, Shift P, and notice it's active. It's blue, meaning it's been activated. Now, nothing's happening, at least that I can see, because, well, maybe my proxies are excellent quality. It looks no different, especially when the raster size, the render of the pixels for that frame, is only this big. So maybe you don't really notice it unless you go full screen. There's another way that you can tell whether or not proxies are actually connected. So what's another way you can tell you have proxies?
I'll tell you what I do for troubleshooting, and I don't think this is necessarily the one that you're shooting for at the moment, but when I go, this just doesn't look like a proxy to me, how can I confirm it?
Mm.
I will actually right click and do reveal in Finder or reveal in Explorer. Because if I have proxies
Okay.
turned on and then I reveal it on my desktop, it will
Yep.
actually take me, it should take me to that proxy rather than take me to the original file.
Right. Okay. So that is when it's in proxy mode, you
Mm-hmm.
right click on the clip or use a keyboard shortcut
Mm-hmm.
to reveal in Explorer or browser if you're on
Reveal in
Mac.
Finder.
Or Finder, sorry. I keep
Mm-hmm.
thinking browser. Finder. And that takes you to the file level location.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. That is one way to do it. Probably
But I know what you're
makes a
going for, and
mess.
you do that.
It probably makes a little bit of a mess in that you're opening Windows and you're like, oh, I just want to see if all of these files are connected. I expect them to be connected, but then you've got to do that to all of them. That seems like a lot of, what would it be? Command W? What's a shortcut to close? Like little pop-up
To
windows.
close Premiere or close a window?
No, the Finder windows. So when you go and you open a whole new Finder window on a Mac. Anyway.
It could be. I'm a command tab guy. I just switch between apps that way the whole time. Command tab.
Yeah, okay. Fair enough.
Control tab on PC.
Yep. So if I was to do this, what's going to happen is it will open the current state that the clip is being read from, which is actually the original file. It's not looking at the proxy because it's not connected yet. So if you want to find out whether or not you've got a group of these that should be connected that aren't, you can go into the project panel and then there's a few different ways to do this as well. To the very right of each panel, there's what we nickname a hamburger menu or a contextual menu, which is these 3 lines. So if you click on that, there's a bunch of things that are to do with that specific panel. One of them is metadata display. So that's one way to get to that. The other way, boring, how boring. The other way is across the top here, you can see all the different columns that you've got for the different types of information. And you can right click in there and go straight to metadata display.
Now we're talking. I'm more of a right click kind of guy.
I figured you were. From the moment I laid eyes on you, however many years ago it was, probably 8 years ago now. I'm going to say
yeah, that could be years. Right. Or maybe 9. Maybe we're coming up to 9.
Okay, maybe. Semantics. Do we need a we need some sort of anniversary gift, do we? I don't know.
I think that would be appropriate, yeah.
Cool. So in here, all these little tick boxes usually have some other tick boxes inside of them. Each one of these is a property of metadata that you can add to your list. I want to use my filter here to search for a specific one called, if I can spell, Proxy. So all I want, and there's multiple things you can do here, I just want Proxy, and then I'm going to click OK. And now, any new added components to the metadata schema, which is what this layout's called, it's a schema, will be added to the very end. And you can grab the name of the column and pull it. So I'm just clicking down and pulling it to the left, and now I've put that first. So then when I get out of this full view using the tilde key or the grav key or whichever key you want to label it as, the one that's under the escape key if you're using a US keyboard, I can now see whether or not proxies are attached. At the moment, that column is blank. So let's go through and actually step through connecting one of these. Now, because I'm on the clip here, I actually want that one. So I'm going to use my reveal in project to select that shot. I'll right click this one, go to proxy, and you can see there's a couple different options here. We'll sort of explain them as we go. In this case, I'm going to attach a proxy. And
so this is something that you have made before?
Yes, this has been done previously, like any good cooking show. You have a before and after, and I've done this before. So just to stay in the theme of not waiting for it to make it, I've got a few different ones. So there's my JB's footage, proxies. I've got some H.264 ones, some QuickTime ProRes ones, and some XD Cam EX 18 megabits per second ones.
What are you feeling tonight?
I don't know, mate.
You feeling kind of H.264-ish, or?
Ooh.
It's not a good cutting proxy.
Nah, well, it depends. It depends on your system. It can be okay. Although I would recommend, if you've got a large project, you really should be using something like an intra-frame codec, which is QuickTime ProRes, Avid DNX, HD or HR is also, GoPro Cineform is another one. And a lot of the XD cam type ones are as well, which this one is. There's a few other little ones out there too, but they're probably a little fringe-ish.
Is that intra-frame XD cam?
It is. I double checked this on that particular format of it. It's low data rate, but it is absolutely. Now the thing with working with an XD cam flavored codec is the wrapper is usually .mxf, and .mxf files will usually create a sidecar file for added metadata. So it can start to get a little messy.
Right.
I like working with them because they're pretty low rate, like data rate, and still intra-frame.
Yeah.
But it can make a bit of a mess. Anyway, I digress. Let's go into QT proxies. You can see here, I've actually got some burnt-in info as well. So the one I'm looking for is Barley Sunset Flags close-up. So there's a couple of them here. That's the one I'm looking for there. I might go into the view-only mode. Now, notice it's got underscore proxy there as well. That happens by default when you create them using Premiere Pro, but it's not a requirement. You don't need to do that. It's just an extra layer of being able to tell that you're connected to a proxy file.
This is an interesting question, though, because if I was to click that search button, what is it searching for? Is it searching for the name of the file? Is it searching for the name of the file and proxy?
That's a good question. So if I deselect, so I've just clicked outside of the selection, nothing is highlighted, and I click search, it's actually gone and found, because it remembers the last time I did the demo, I did connect it to the MXF. So it's gone into my XDCam EX18 720p folder. But it has found the underscore proxy name. So it does kind of look for the underscore proxy as well.
Right.
It does, yeah.
Isn't it interesting that it went to that XDCam folder first?
But that's because the metadata in the original file still remembers that even though it had become detached, it remembers that, oh wait, in a previous version of being open, in a different project, I used to connect to this proxy file, and this is the last one I remember.
Okay. Interesting.
Interesting. All right, I'm going to go into this one here, and let's see now what's going on here. It says it's attached over here, and it says that I'm connected in proxy mode. But am I? Ooh, what's going on here? Let's hit F to go in. Oh, this is weird. So
I can't tell if you're pretending to be surprised or this is genuinely stumped.
I'm genuinely like, what?
Because that is your proxy over there when you did match frame.
Yeah.
But we are not.
Do you know what? I know what's happened. I know what's happened.
You're not in a production.
Who can tell?
Anything,
no. Who can tell what's happened here? Who can tell what's happened here? Ooh, this is going to be interesting. I'm going to leave this and see whether the amazing viewership we have right now is actually going to come in and go, oh, I know exactly what's going on here. Because I can tell you, just by looking at what I'm seeing right now, there's some signature things that are telling me.
Oh, yeah, I've just figured it out.
Oh, you just figured it out? All right, we might as
Yeah.
well tell everyone at home. So what's happened here? Let's take a look at the framing of the in-sequence version of that clip. Then take a look at the match framed clip, and do you see a difference in, say, the cropping?
And it's probably important also to point out that that text that we see over in the source monitor, that is burnt into your proxy, right?
That's correct. That's not an overlay.
Right.
I burnt that in.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yep.
And we are not seeing that over in the program monitor.
And the reason being, if I go to the effect controls and I look here, I have a 100% scale. However, when I made the sequence is 1920 by 1080. The clip itself, the source file, so the original file, let's have a look at how big the original file is supposed to be. And I'm going to move all the way over to here. Oh, it is Ultra HD. So if I was to make that 50%, you can now see that the crop had effectively removed what we could see in the burnt in footage. So if I turn this on and off now, you can see the difference. Okay. All right. So even though you think, hang on, I should be able to tell straight away that it is or it isn't using a proxy, without knowing that over here in the metadata that's attached, and if there was some sort of crop going on there, I might not really tell. And I've got to say, I'm just going to roll back a second here. When I toggle this on and off, going from the very high data rate, which I create, it was an MP4, but I made it a ProRes file, so it was intra-frame. Can you see the difference in quality? Like, honestly.
Can you show us the scopes again? You had the scopes up a second ago, right?
I did. You're right. Let's have a look here. Hang on. There we go. Okay, so there's that one. Now, the thing is, you're going to see something different because of the text.
Right.
So you will see like extra highlights, right?
Yeah. Yeah. Let me just focus. Okay. Yeah.
A little bit. It's
if
a little
you focus
fuller.
on a line. Yeah. Yeah.
Like Proxy, it's a little bit like the stitching of a jumper's been stretched.
Yep.
And then it's like, oh, there's more stitching.
Or
like, what is it? Satin sheets thread count.
It's thread count.
It's a thread count.
So is it a ProRes proxy that you used for your proxy file, or just a ProRes?
Well, this is another way that you can tell
format.
whether or not something's actually connected. So if I right click and go to properties, and then I have a good look at the list of properties of information here, we have the original file path of the source file. So that's the name and the path, and then the type, and then the size, including not just the data size, but all the other bits and pieces. Now, if I keep scrolling down, it will tell me more information about the video data. So it was ProRes 422HQ.
Yes.
And if I keep going down, I can see now another type of metadata specifically for the proxy media. It's a different file in a slightly different location with a different name, _proxy, way different file size, different image size, the same frame rate, and it will also have the exact same audio as far as channels go. That's a must. Have to repeat that 100 times. When you make proxies, if you're not using Premiere to create them with defaults, you have to make sure there's a match. So if you've got 4-channel audio in your source files, when you make proxies and you make them custom, they must also have 4-channel audio.
Because it's literally switching out the files.
Exactly.
So you can't switch to a file that only has 2 channels, or you can't switch to a file where it's mixed down everything to 1 channel. Otherwise, you're not going to be able to keep editing your audio.
Yeah, exactly. Because you might have things split out, and it just creates too many areas where the way you break out audio and utilize it, you might snooker yourself. So Adobe just doesn't allow you to have alternate audio channeling compared to what the original source was. Right. So the real difference is, let's have a look here at the so the difference is
There
the
you go.
resolution is cut into a quarter of the. Is it quarter? No, it's not even quarter. Or maybe it is. So what's half of 1080? Half of 1080 is 540. So it's a little higher than a quarter of a resolution.
Yep.
But then it's also using 422 proxy, so it's probably got a lot less color information that's been thrown out to make the file size that much smaller.
And we're seeing that in the scopes to some extent. We're seeing that change in pixel size, and we're seeing that change in gradation between colors.
Yeah. There is a question here come from our favorite, Undead, destroyer of all. Is it possible to get the proxy in the original file to match if the original file has had a different frame rate set via interpret footage? As it is, the two versions seem to play out of sync. Okay, so this is a great question, and it was not on our radar of things to talk about. I have
heard it asked before.
Yes, and I have workshopped with many a customer on them facing this particular problem. Now, the way that a proxy file is created is it looks at the absolute source interpreted data. When you bring in a file into Premiere Pro and you mess with the interpretation, you're not resetting the original source file at the file level. So if you were to bring in overcranked footage that was, say, shot at, let's say 60p, but you want to slow that down to 2.5 times speed, which is then 24 frames per second, and you tell it, pretend you're 24 frames per second. When you make a proxy, the proxy will not become something made at 24 frames per second. The proxy will look at the original recorded file and go, oh, this was originally recorded at 60. So I will make my proxy as 60. And the fake interpret that you do to the source does not roll down into also reinterpreting the proxy. So if you want to do speed changes like that, do it in the timeline. Don't do it through the interpret option. So that's a little bit why it doesn't.
That feels like something that needs to be fixed at some point.
I agree. I think it is something
just the idea,
yeah. If
the idea of adjusting frame rates on the timeline just doesn't seem
or
just
speeds.
The best way to do things.
Well, speeds, because you're adjusting speed in the timeline, not the frame rate per se. But you're right. There's more calculation you need to do to get it right.
Yeah.
And it is something that you would like it to hook into both parts of the way the file's interpreted. But I agree. It's something that could be fixed, but that's why it does it.
So then does that also mean that like aspect ratio doesn't ripple through? Does that mean that interlacing doesn't ripple through? I mean, it's rare that I'm creating proxies for sorts of things.
That's a good question. It's based on the interpret of the original source file. So yeah, you can get caught up. So if you start messing with the aspect ratio, and then let's say you make everything go offline, if you start messing with things, you're working in proxy mode and you go, oh, everything sort of looks right, but unless you've literally matched the original source file recording, any of that interpreted metadata that changes your aspect ratio, that changes different layers of what's going on, when you go to online everything, because you might just work in proxies for a while, when you go to online, all your position data is going to be wrong, your scale data is going to be wrong. It's going to have a lot of problems that you need to go back and fix the whole thing. So that would totally suck. I would just at least be aware not to mess with the interpret side of things and expect the source that's interpreted to concatenate down into the way it also interprets the proxy.
So speed changes on the timeline for now.
Yes. For now. Cool. So the frame rates in the timeline is kind of part of the question as well. But yeah, it's the same principle. So yeah, just make sure that your source file information about the file itself, the properties, is going to be a sync with, especially frame rates. It's going to be the same with the proxy itself. Cool. Okay.
Yeah.
So we've kind of done this, and I guess the thing we wanted to maybe highlight here was that when you are using proxies, and I'm just going to make this match to the set to frame match, right?
Good idea.
So you don't have to have everything in proxy mode. So this is another thing we wanted to sort of mention, is that you don't have to convert everything that you're working in to work with proxies. It's just something you can control it. So you can have, this particular file type. What was that file type we were talking about earlier that most people, when they try to play it natively, it's usually problematic.
H265. Yeah. Drone
DJI stuff.
Yeah.
Some drone stuff.
Yeah.
Right.
I was on the new iMac Pro a couple of years ago, cutting H265, and it would play it, but if you really started to try and edit it on the timeline, it would sort of freeze up a bit. So that was like a number one culprit for turning just those into proxies. I didn't worry about the other stuff.
Right. And so the way to go about doing that, I went and converted one file, but you could select more than one and then right-click that, and whatever's selected in the group, and you go to proxy and you create them or attach or detach, you can do that based on the selection. So the other thing is also, if you're trying to work with a specific set of stuff, and let's say you put all the problem files you've got are actually in a bin, so I might just call these... Not to pick on a particular place, right? Well, let's just call it drone, right? Drone footage. What you can also do is say, do you know what? Everything that's in this folder, I don't want to select everything that's in the folder, and then I've got another folder. Just select the folder itself, right-click, and then go and create or attach proxies. Everything that's in the folder will go through the process.
The only time that doesn't work is when you're doing it with a, what do we call it? A search bin. You can't do that with a search bin. But search bins are really good for working with proxies. So if you've got drone footage scattered all over your project, you can use a search bin to just say, look, just show me everything that's using this codec, or just show me everything that has these dimensions. You can't select that search bin folder and say turn everything in here into a proxy, but you can select the footage within it.
Yes, correct. So I've just made, let me zoom the scale of that. So this here is a folder that has a magnifying glass inside of it. So what I did, I used the filter here to type in a particular word, then I clicked on the create new search bin from the query, and everything I'm looking at in here is actually just a duplicate or a replication of what's real that's inside these other folders. And if I wanted to right click on the folder, say, hey, everything that's in that folder, can you make proxies? It won't let you do it because it's not a real folder. It's just like a filtered view. If you went into the clip itself as a reference, then you can go in and start to do that stuff, just like Paul was saying. So yes, if you have a true bin or folder, you can right click on it and then you can do that action to the entire content that's in the folder. Cool bananas. Okay, so that's that bit. Now, I think we're probably looking...
I want to make some proxies.
Well, let's make some. All right, let's make sure. And how do we make sure? Proxies, empty, so this doesn't have one. So if I right click on one, and then go to create, there's a few presets that Adobe supply, and this got adjusted a few updates ago, whereby it was limited to resolution types. So you get one that would be 720p or 540, or there'd be all these different presets that were based on, why is this not populating? That's bizarre. Hello? Do you not like me? Oh, it just took a while to get there. It's a bit sleepy. It used to have all these different types here that were based on different frame dimensions or pixel aspect ratios. because true 4K is not the same aspect ratio as Ultra HD, even though people use Ultra HD and 4K in the same meaning. 4K is not really Ultra HD. It's a different pixel count, so it's a little bit wider when it's true 4K.
Which
Anyway,
in the old days we would have to have presets for every different aspect ratio. Is aspect ratio the right phrase here? Yeah,
pixel aspect ratio. Yeah.
Yeah. So 16:9 or 18:9 or whatever.
Or
Every time
235 to 1 for CinemaScope.
Yeah, every time something new came in, you'd have to create a new preset for it, which was very frustrating.
Right.
But these just adapt to it now.
Exactly. So now it's just a low, medium, high resolution, and it solves the pixel aspect ratio for you, and it also solves the frame pixel count, like the actual resolution as well. So if you had 8K and you just say make it low resolution, for low resolution 8K, I haven't done this test, but as an example, it might make it 1080. But if you have a 1080
I was just thinking
clip,
I haven't actually tested this myself. It would be good to know.
It's interesting, isn't it? I actually haven't gone through the process and made like a chart of, if you start with 1080 and you use low resolution proxy, it makes
Is it changing
this resolution.
Are these settings changing the bit rate of the codec being used as well? The profile of the codec?
Yeah, it's all secret sauce embedded in there. I'm not sure how to actually access these presets.
Well, I can certainly access them on a Mac. I think it's a little bit harder on a PC, but you actually have to get into the application to find them. They're actually embedded within the application.
Yeah. So, yeah. There's some other magical things that go on in there to do with audio where it just matches the audio for you. And that's where I can't access them, I think, because there is no magic tick box when you make your own preset that will just match audio.
Right. Yeah.
Cool. So there's H.264. There's the MXF OP1A, which is OP1 Atom audio type. There's a few different ones in here, and you can see that I've actually made a few in there, and that's because I made them and used the add ingest preset process to do that. I've also done this with QuickTime, although you do get ProRes and Cineform, and for VR work, you get DNxHR proxies as well.
And to be honest, this drop-down list right here is the reason that I don't fully understand what's going on behind the scenes. Is I just use these presets and I'm happy. They're small files. They play smoothly.
Yep. Now, the only reason why I like to have my own custom presets is that I can do security and fail-safe related things, such as burnt-in timecode or burnt-in title or a watermark. I can add that into the preset, so then when they're made and I hand over to someone who's not inside a facility, who's working from, say, home, I know that they're not getting high, what they're working with is high enough quality to make decisions and do edits, but it's not something that they could steal and sort of have released early. It would look crap because it's covered in stuff, right? If you use these presets, it doesn't have any of those options in there. It's just a lower quality version of the original source. So you don't have those layers of burn-in or watermarking that allows you to say, hey, we know that it's been stolen by X person and they've released it outside of contract or whatever.
I like it.
Now notice in my naming here, I put in how many audio channels are part of that preset. And that's because you've got to make sure that you've got a match. So I would be checking and confirming that the content I'm about to spit out with proxies here, what channels it is, and then I'll probably have alternate versions of this. So I've got one that's got 2 channel, 4 channel, 8 channel, depends if you're working with broadcast cameras or not, and then match the right one. If it doesn't match, it will tell you it can't do it. So it's not like you spend all that time, it does it, and then you go, now it doesn't like it after I waited for it to make it. That sucks. So yeah. All right, cool. Well, let's go with that one. Where's it going to go? It can go into another folder that it puts next to the original media, or you can lump it all together in one mega folder that's just called proxies, and it's got proxies of all the proxies that you make for the entire project can go into one proxy folder. Now, there's a potential problem with that. Paul, why don't you give us a little bit of backstory there where you got slightly caught out?
Yeah, this was something that I discovered way too late, which was that I was working on a project where the cameraman would wipe his camera card at the end of every day, and his camera would reset the count back to 0. So I had 40 different files that all had the exact same name, but they were all in a different folder that was named after the day it was shot. So, I had 40 different 0001.mts, and I went and made proxies of these. And what happens is if you've got non-unique file names, so duplicate file names, it's just going to add an _1 to the end of that proxy name. So proxy _1, proxy _2, which is fine. I mean, it's doing it in the background and it's linking everything, which is great. But unbeknownst to me, had to change computers 2 or 3 times and change storage a couple of times on this project. And it said, hey, where's this file? And I'm like, I don't know. I don't even know what that is. So that would be my emphasis to people. It's a good idea to, if you do plan on doing proxies, to try and keep your files with a unique name as they're coming into Premiere.
Yeah, and I think that's just a good rule of thumb for managing your files when they come in.
Yeah.
Is to, if you can, rename the source file. I know that seems like a lot of work, but even later on, if you were to do a handover for an online or something and you had to pass out to a completely different system outside of Premiere to do, say, the color grade, that in itself, having done that legwork up front and avoid having the same name for clips can be the difference between a smooth transition and an absolute nightmare. So good idea to just have those names the same. But yeah, benefits of having all the proxies in one folder means you can blast them all away in one fell swoop. Otherwise, you do need to go into subfolders and find them and whatever. Anyway,
Ain't nobody got time for that.
Ain't nobody got time for that. I'm going to... I'm going to put it in the original next to the proxy folder, within a proxy folder next to the original file. So say okay, right. Now it goes off and does this job in the background. Notice I have got this turned on, right? So it should be... Now I'm just trying to think which... Oh, hang on, let's see. Oh, it's happening in the background. Oh. Why is it doing... Oh, it's doing that shot again. Is it the same shot or is it the other shot? Oh, I can't tell.
Are we seeing your screen? I can't see your screen at the moment.
Oh, hang on. Yeah, well, that's probably a good thing. So I've gone and told that to go and make the file in the background. It's gone and started rendering it all by itself. And I'm pretty sure you just heard that chime telling me that it's finished job. It's done. And the clip itself was the second file. So I've got this close up and then a very wide, well, not very wide, but wider shot. And so in the background, it attaches and replaces the connection to the clip. So you don't even need to like close and open. Very dynamic. Just being able to have this toggle. I found when this was released to be like a huge benefit. Huge time saver, very efficient way of being able to work.
Yeah, the only thing you have to keep in mind is if you queue up a lot of things to be made into a proxy, make sure that you do it and you don't plan on closing Premiere. You know, like if you have to shut down your computer at the end of the day, it's not going to be able to link up those proxies automatically for you.
Right. It does need to still be open in order
Yeah,
to
the project needs to be
continue
open.
the handshake of
Mm.
sending the job off to create the proxy, and then when it's finished making the proxy, for it to attach inside the project to the source file. That step needs to happen within the same cycle of when you've executed. So yeah, if you were to close Premiere or quit Premiere mid-cycle, the renders are still going to keep going. The attach won't kick in on its own.
Yeah. So you will have to manually attach, which isn't so bad,
Which isn't the
but
worst
it's
thing
just
either.
nicer. Yeah.
Yeah, exactly. All right, cool. Well, we're flying through time here, and we've sort of
It's always the
touched
way.
a few things. Audio channels must match the watermarks. Okay, so one of the things I like to do.
I also found the size of those presets.
Oh yeah.
So everything in terms of H.264, Apple ProRes, and GoPro Cineform, from low, medium, high, they're all 102, 540, 1280, 720, and 1536, 790.
37.6, 790.
Mm.
Oh, cool. I don't know where they are.
Yeah, I think it's harder to find on a PC.
Yeah, I've got a feeling though it's probably somewhere around where the original clips are for it. But anyway, if I type in here low, it doesn't show it for me in this list.
Yes,
it's tucked away, probably for good reason, but tucked away nonetheless. Right now, if you want to make these things and you're using stuff that is kind of different sizes. So for example, let's go back to this particular clip here. I'm going to reveal where this clip is in my Explorer and go and add that into here. Now I'm using this as a way of setting up the kind of burn in that I want to do, right? If I don't check when I ask to do effects like burn in effects and stuff, and I just assume that it's going to fit, it might be too big and like overlap the entire screen, which kind of makes it crappy, right? You don't want that. You want it to fit nicely. My computer is really not happy with me tonight. What's going on, buddy? Well, fine then. Let's go and find the thing with the thing is, where is it? I'm just trying to remember where I actually had this stuff. Oh, it's in Adobe Max Content, JB's footage, and it'll be in here. So let's get the swing, put that footage in here. Why is that not opening up? How weird. Well. I tell you what, let's use this as a
teachable moment.
Yeah, exactly. Now, before we came on, I did reboot and I sort of launched stuff up. This happens, I haven't seen this happen for a long time, but sometimes you'll find things are not working quite right. So what I'm going to do is close Media Encoder because something's not quite right with Media Encoder. Then on a PC, I'm going to hold the Alt key and then I'm going to click to launch Media Encoder while still holding down the Alt key. Now, if you're on a Mac, you'd be holding down the Option key. And let's see, it should be asking me to reset something. It has not yet. Oh, here we go. Where are you? Did you do it? No, it didn't do it. Oh, because I let go of the Lumen mouse. Oh, let's try it again. Okay, hold down the Alt key. Come on, Media Encoder. Launch, and then ask me, do you want to reset the preferences? That's what I'm waiting for. It's being funny, my little machine. Oh, it's quite hot. Maybe that's why.
We do have a question on the YouTubes at the moment.
Go for it.
Well, Mr. L. Manders has asked, have you mentioned that there is a status window in Premiere to show you the status of Media Encoder proxy generation?
Oh. It looks like it didn't take my little thing. Yes, there is. You're correct. All right, let's try this again. High res footage. blah, blah. Can I add this into my list? Here we go. It's adding the shot. Very good. So it's working again properly. I don't know why. Just restarting it made it work. Okay, let's solve that particular thing. So there is a new-ish. It's been around a little while, but there is a window called Progress. Now, if I bring that forward, and then I send something off to get done, so create proxy, and I'm just going to say, okay, go, make it. As that's happening, you actually get, there you go, a proxy job status at the bottom of that list, right? And if I was to make that full screen, you'll see a little bit more information. Now, this all happens in the background. It does give you kind of some information around auto reframe if you use that function. Also, when you're importing like really big files, it gives you a bit more data around what's happening there, what file it is that it's still trying to import, and then also graphics files. So if you're using motion graphics templates and things like that, and it has to download that from the internet, there is that information of progress, what exactly is going on. So yes, thanks, Manders. There's a lesser known panel that exists that helps you understand. Right, now I put this particular clip in here because what I wanted to do was, let's reset the status of this. I wanted to go in and look at the match source rewrap kind of option of the preset to see what's going on here. So if I go to effects and start adding in to make my own proxy preset, an image overlay, let's say, and if I chose, ooh, this could be very bad. This could be ugly. Oh, wow. It's super ugly. It's going to be me.
Oh, dear.
Oh, dear. I'm going to make that 10%.
Quick, lower the resolution. Lower the resolution.
Avert your eyes and your ears. So you can see there's a few things you can do in here. Now, if you have something that has an alpha channel, like a PNG file or even an AI file, so an Adobe Illustrator file, you could use that as a watermark and throw it in, right? When you start doing this stuff, the image, not such a problem, but the name, look how big the freaking name looks there. It looks goofy.
It's too big.
And if I had a longer name, it'd just be silly too big. So when you make your own custom encoding preset, please take the time to just test it, confirm that the size is going to be right. So I usually make mine somewhere around 10 or 5. Yeah, too small. 10, acceptable.
And tucked away too.
And it's kind of not quite, I don't like it being so low. So you can do these offset settings as well. And it takes a little bit of a catch up, but you can custom position where this stuff goes. So all that sort of stuff, go in and check and use a clip in order to double check that everything's going to line up the right way or the way you expect it to and want it to. Then when you go to save the preset, you make sure you tick Save Effects Settings, and those effects settings that you've put in there will be part of the new encoder that you've made. So I'm going to call this new CHiNWAG encode, right? And I'm going to pretend that that's what we're using for our proxy. You can go in and change the video settings. Oh, it's perfect, isn't it? You can change the video, audio settings and get that dialed in just how you like. But when it comes to making an automated workflow, so I think we might sort of wrap things up around taking it from a process where you're manually making them and highlight that there is another way to, at the import stage, to automatically grab video files and throw them into Media Encoder to make everything consistent. So if you've got H.264 footage coming in and you're just like, no, I want to scrub and I want easy, buttery, smooth scrubbing and playback and none of this sort of, oh, hang on, if I go in reverse, if I go too quick, it kind of gets a little bottlenecked because it's having to...
I'm too fast. I'm too fast for editing H.264 and I get impatient and I'm just like, I will happily sit down and let this thing create better proxies because I got no time to cut H.264.
Yeah. So if you want to automate the process to just make everything the same codec, you use an ingest preset. And that's where you start to combine your custom encoding presets as well. So an ingest preset, I'll just make one up right now. It looks pretty basic in comparison to what we just were looking at before to make the encoding settings. What you have here is, let's give this a name too. Now, I strongly recommend you name your ingest presets ingest and then whatever the heck it is, because the file type is exactly the same as an encoding preset file type, EPR. EPR. Which means at the file level, the file type, you can't tell whether or not what you're looking at or trying to bring in is an encoding preset or an ingest preset.
And chances are you'll probably want to call them the same thing as well.
Yes. So in this case, CHiNWAG.
Yes.
CHiNWAG, what did I call it? CHiNWAG encode, new CHiNWAG encode. Now by having ingest, it means that when I maybe share this out, I know that it's the ingest. When I try to bring it in through the whole process to make it my new default ingest workflow, I know that it's the ingest one. Now you can set up automated copy files to destination locations, which is a set of instructions of what happens with the process at ingest. Part of that is you can verify the file. So you can go through a few different standards in order to confirm that you are getting exactly bit for bit the file that is coming from the camera, because you might have a very fast turnaround. You throw the camera stick or the SD card or whatever into the machine and just start importing. You can actually make this so it copies the source to a different location and creates a backup, while it also goes through a transcode and creates the proxy. So there's a few different things you can use the ingest for. We'll turn off the copy destination and the verify. We'll turn them off. We're just going to use the transcode files as destination here because it requires it, even though at the format and preset level, I'm going to use my new CHiNWAG encode. So we made settings of the encode. That setting is named new CHiNWAG encode. That preset is part of what's inside an ingest preset set of steps. I hope I've made that understandable.
It certainly was the first sort of learning curve for me, is that any kind of proxy creation doesn't just require the encoder settings. It also involves these ingest settings, which is a way of saying, this is what I want you to do with the file. I want you to create proxies using this encoder preset.
Right. And if you're still on the same machine and you recognize that you probably need to update the preset, like let's say the data rate's too high or it's too low, you can make that change and it technically should connect up and replace whatever the new settings were inside that encode in the ingest. We're starting to get a little goofy, so you want to double check that it is all going to be connecting correctly before you confirm. I've done it, it does work, but you always want to double check that stuff. Okay, so there's a few other sets of instructions here, like adding specific metadata, which would automatically get added in because it might be a particular shoot. You might want to rename the file. Maybe that could have come in handy at some point in an earlier anecdote. So there's things that you could be doing. We're going to ignore those. Hit OK. And I know that this lives in a specific spot. So reveal the preset file is what I'm going to do. But you could export that preset and literally email it to someone or hand it over to someone else. Now, when you do that with ingest, you also need to hand over the encode preset because they couple together. So I'll reveal this preset file. Now I'm going to do this trick
I wonder if you'd also need to redirect to that. So you import the ingest preset, and then you import the encoder preset. I feel like you'd still need to open up the ingest preset and say, use this encoder preset.
Yeah, because if you brought over or imported the EPR file, which is the ingest, and you hadn't yet brought over the encoder, the encoding one, then
it'll say, where's this encoder preset?
Yeah, it just wigs out, right? It's just like, I don't know what you want me. What do you want me to encode it to? That doesn't exist. So yes,
it's probably a hard path too in that ingest preset. It's probably not a relative path.
Yeah, so you do want to make sure you hook everything up again.
Yeah.
Before you continue. So I know where this thing lives, CHiNWAG encode. Now I'm going to highlight that and then copy it.
Let's see your screen, JB.
Oh my god. Thanks, mate. That's why you're worth every penny. So I've got my ingest CHiNWAG encode. Okay, and I'm going to reveal the preset file, which is sitting inside my documents, Adobe Media Encoder version 14 presets folder. So this is where all of the ones I've made go and live. That's the one I want. So what I'm going to do is just highlight that string. I will copy that, and then when I go to Premiere Pro, the ingest preset, which I can turn on through Media Browser, and because I haven't set it up yet, it's open the project settings for ingest settings. Turn that on, and there's a few different options. And we're just looking at the create proxies right now. Have a play with these if you're not familiar with them. It's going to load some presets that Adobe gives you. But again, that's pretty straightforward if you want to just use the things that Adobe is providing for you. If you want more control, then you want to be adding your own preset in here. So even while that's taking a while to load, I don't know why it's taking so long.
Yeah, so that those files that it's trying to load are in the same location as the other ones that were taking a while to load. So there's some sort of a lag there. That's interesting.
I probably need to restart Premiere.
Could be.
For whatever reason. I wonder if I go into add ingest preset. Yeah, it's going to let me in there.
Just take you there. Yeah.
So when on Windows anyway, when I do this, I can then select the string where it last thought to go, and then hit paste because I copied where we were before. Now I'm going to exactly the right place, and I'm adding my ingest CHiNWAG encode preset, which it has all that other information we put into it inside it. So there's nothing here to say what preset do you want to encode. It's embedded in the ingest set of instructions. I hope that makes sense.
Yeah, no, it does.
Cool. So now with the primary destination, you can set it to use the ingest settings that I highlighted, but I turned most of them off, which means you go, oh, just use the preset destination, which it was set to M blah, blah, blah. But you can say, we'll make it the same as the project. So you can see down here, transcode clips to, and the file path changes based on what it is that you've got set in here. So now it's going to the Creative Cloud, choose a specific location, blah, blah, a few different options. The benefit of having it use the preset destination is that you might have specific file locations that when that preset A is being used, it's going to put the file in a particular spot. When preset B is used, again, it's going to use a different location, which is baked inside the ingest preset you've made. And then you only just need to keep that use preset destination option. Cool. I'm going to use that, hit OK, and now I'm going to import. And then we'll see when I go to import what happens. So let's make that small. I'll use the media browser. You don't have to. You can go through just standard sort of double click to import, or Control or Command I to import. The same way that you bring things in will trigger the whole process. So I'm going to look for What have I got here?
I just love a good drag and drop. I know it's like it's more effort.
Well, do you know what?
than a
I will do that too because it still applies. So
Yeah.
let's have a look for the high res. So this is the high res stuff before the palm tree swing. It's already in the project, but I'm going to grab that and bring it in as a new import. So let's see what happens here. Oh, hang on. Something's happened in Media Encoder. Oh, it's finished. Oh, no, here we go. It's sent it, and now it's creating that proxy for me. And look, if we zoom in here, you can see it's got my crappy face in the clouds, and it's got that upper left burn-in name that we put in there too.
Looks good.
Now, before that is done, I'm going to add this into the project and wait for it. I'll just play. It should chime. Oh, it won't chime because it's set to pause when I'm playing back.
Oh, right.
So I'll just leave it there for a second and let it finish rendering. Bling!
Oh.
And did you hear the sound between the bling and then seeing the proxy version with all of the glorious burn-in?
It looks
my
good.
Face. So
what opacity is your face there? That's very light.
10%.
Like 10% or something? Okay, right. Okay.
10%, yeah. So yeah. That's kind of the real guts of sort of how to use this with a few extra bits and pieces. Now, if you were, what we wanted to sort of wrap up on this was, if you're using, let's say you're sending stuff over to, where are you here? Replace with After Effects composition. If you're doing that sort of thing and you have proxies attached, they do carry over into After Effects. There's a square that sits next to the source file in the project panel, and you tick that square, and then it will utilize the proxy. So it will translate over. And the other thing I think we will wrap this up on is a new additional feature that's come in.
Oh, I've lost your audio, JB.
Oh no. Hello.
I don't know if the rest of the world.
You know what
can't
it is?
hear you,
It's a keyboard short.
There we go.
I'm back. Yeah, it's a keyboard shortcut. Thanks, Skype.
Oh.
So I'm going to use the manual way. Export media. And
Control M for mute.
Yes. And if you've got Skype running in the background, it will mute the microphone no matter what application you have forward. This is a new option. So when newish, yeah. When you export with proxies, right? So let's have a look here. I've got now that's interesting that that's coming through with the proxy. Whereas if we look at these other ones, you can see that there's no proxy there. Now, if I tick this new option, use proxies, it's actually going to force use clips that have proxies attached. If it doesn't have proxies attached, when you render out, when you export out, it will use the source file because that's the only other version of the file it can connect to. But if you wanted to export this out for, let's say, review, and you're handing it outside of your safe and secure ecosystem, you still want the proxies to have that burn-in, right? So it looks a little bit less, okay, I'll steal this and put it out online earlier than it should be. You can force to use the proxies. But by default, when that's not turned on, even though my proxies are actually turned on, you can see it's turned on, it will ignore and just try to render with the source files if it's connected to source files. If the source file's not connected, then it will use the proxy.
Yes. So if you take a project home with you, where and maybe just the drive with the proxies on it, but the HD is in the office, then you can still export using those proxies. It will default to them.
Correcto mundo. So yeah, that kind of covers it for what we've got tonight. We've gone a little bit over. But if you've got any other questions, fire away in the comments. We'll do what we can to address any of the other sort of weird little twisty-turny thingamajiggies that you come across in your proxy workflow.
Mm.
Yeah.
And we've only got 4 episodes left for the season. So whether you're watching this live or you're watching this later, if anybody has any topics they want covered, or want to know whether they can win a pillow or something like that, let us know.
Yeah. Yes. So the pillow, and I don't know whether you could see it in the 2-up. Maybe you couldn't. There's a code word every week, and in the description of the show, there is a link to go and register to win one of these bad boys right here. And I promise it will come to you if you win smelling like boat. I do
You
have
can't
other.
bottle that smell.
Well, you could probably sell it. It doesn't smell in my boat. It smells nice in my boat. I do have brand new ones. You won't get that. You'll get a fresh one. There's fresh ones that I've got that will be going out to the winner at the end of episode 12. We'll do the draw for that. So You've seen the code word now, and I think we'll wrap it up.
Yeah, let us know if you've got any topics you would like us to cover. Otherwise, we're just going to talk about whatever we want.
That's right, because, it's the internet. You can do what you like. But we want to be helpful. That's the main thing.
Where we can.
I'm going to have another bevy. All right, mate. Thanks for joining me.
All right.
Thanks, everyone, for watching. And ciao for now.
Cheerio.
This week on the Adobe Video CHiNWAG, we share what we know about the proxy workflow. Feel the sensation of ingest automation, customize your proxy size, to cut the bloat while working remote. Join the live stream with John Barrie and Paul Murphy this Wednesday at 7 p.m. Melbourne time.